because in this case, it's different because it's done in a Nachal Eson. Is need be by Kapora Shaidea Karbonas Bebeis Hamikdash. It's different than the Kapora Beis Hamikdash. Aber der Prat von Va'araftoi, but this detail of Araftoi is similar, is by Chatos Oif. That is similar to the Chatos Oif, which is also Molokas Reishim Mimul Orpoi, that you do the Malika for the head and you do it by the neck, from the neck. Mimul Orpoi. The Far Zokt Rashi, that's what Rashi says in Mefaret. That's what Rashi said. Rashi says, and he details. Even though he already explained what Arifa was, Rashi still has to say that he chops off the neck, the back, with the kufitz. He also changes the language of the Mishnah. Mishnah says, that you the Mishnah says you chop off the kufitz from the back. Rashi says koitzitz arba bekufitz to madgish zayin, to emphasize that though is nitoke pula bedoima, this is not an act which should be similar to Maisa HaKarbonis, to the act of Karbonis. This is not a Karbonis act. Balazap ula from koitzitz, such an act to cut down zayin dem oidiv shel behema, the back of the neck of the behema, v'chahot hashtarken etzem hatzavor, which has a strong bone neck, a bone in the neck, umita kupitz, and with such a kupitz kimisakin godel, which is a large knife, is behepach from shechita. That's the opposite of shechita. Was das macht noch starke de Scheile. So that makes the question even greater. Wie ist das mechaper? How could this atone? B'shas is nit bedoime. It's not the same. Und noch mehr is behepach von akrobes hakarbonis. It's opposite than the korban, which is from the front of the neck, and this is cutting it off at the back of the neck. And the Rebbe is Rashi, that's why Rashi continues and emphasizes. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tove Egla Chulu. Though he's geworden, the Rashi says, let the Egla come, which has not given birth, etc. Though he's geworden, anayer oifum from kapora. Here we are told a new style, new way of atonement. Tavoy eglo bashnosa shaleosus pedis. Let a calf, a year-old who has not had a chance to have children, fruit, and it should be chopped off, cut off in a place that doesn't have any fruit made over there. It's a land that has not been worked. As ali inyonim dozain and durchois ba'ifin shalila, that all matters here are done negative. Aleph, eglo bashnosa shaloy osisopeda, a calf a year old who has not had the chance to do fruit. Ta'arif, it should be chopped off, not shech. And Gimel number 3, the mokim she'ena isopedis, in a place that does not make fruit. Because this is coming to atone on the person who did not get the chance, who wasn't allowed to make fruit to have any children. So that is the Rashi's message interpretation over here. And that's the Hemshech HaDvorim, that Rashi says that it is bekufitz, and Rashi says in a cruel way, because here it's not just trying to explain why it is done, it's trying to say why it doesn't fit the normal way, and especially in the shechita part, which is done in a compassionate way from the front of the animal, and here it's done in a way that you cut it off, it is because this has a different meaning in this kind of a new style of kapara. The Rebbe is now going to bring out in the wondrous things, the difference between the way the Rambam learns. The Rambam learns that this Nachal Eson is not a valley, of a hard valley, but a river that flows with a strong flow. And the Rambam gives another, in the Moira Nevuchim, another explanation. What's the purpose of it? And the Rebbe will bring out that we see basically three possibilities in the explanation of the Egla Arufa between the Rambam and the Moira Nevuchim. And then we have the Ramban, as well as the way it seems from the Rambam in Yad HaChazaka, and then the way Rashi learns it. Let's look inside. Hey, from the Inyonim Mufloim, the Pirush Rashi, from the wondrous matters in Rashi. Api Hanal Yeshloimar, based on the above, we can say, as Rashi and the Rambam, that Rashi and the Rambam, Lishitosayu Azli, they follow their view in the Pirush for Nachal Eson, in the interpretation of Nachal Eson. Rashi is Mefarish Kanal. Rashi, as said earlier, explains Nachal Eson means kosher shalei nebad. Eson means a hard, strong, that has not been worked. The Rambam overtypes. The Rambam, however, translates Nachal sheshoitev b'chazaka, a river that flows with force, strong, a strong current. Und das was es steht, but seemingly we're talking not about a nachal, a river. We're talking about a valley of earth. So why? Because the pasuk says, "Asher lo ya'ovid boy v'lo yizora." You didn't work in it and you didn't sow it. I mean, if we're talking about a river, what does it mean? You didn't work or didn't sow it? Is an isur oif lahabo. He says this is a prohibition discussing about the future, that in the future you can't use that land. The nachal dries out, you can't use the land to sow, work that land. But it's not talking about a hard land, it's talking about a strong river flow. The Yeshloimar, and the Rebbe says that the machloikis is nit nor in Pirush HaKosov. This disagreement between the Rambam and Rashi is not just how to interpret the words Nachal Eson, nor sis verbunden euch mit Aplukta, but this is also tied with a disagreement in the Etzem Geder HaKaporet from Egla Arufa, the essence, the definition of the atonement of the Egla Arufa of the calf. We'll see that the Rambam learns different than the Rashi. In the Rashi, it seems like we are taking the subject matter who was killed, and in order to bring the kapore, we're doing all kinds of things to atone for the person who was killed, that he didn't have a chance to have children, and we're bringing all kinds of things for that. But in the Rambam explains differently. Why we bring the Egla Arufa is because that way we can publicize, and when people will talk about it, perhaps we can find the villain, we can find the person that killed him. That's the whole reason we don't know who killed this person that was found. And a person is not going to want his fields to be forever prohibited, because unless we find the killer and we do justice. So the Rambam is masbir in Moira Nevuchim. The Rambam in Moira Nevuchim explains that the time bringen an egla arufa uproti in yoneo. The reason why we bring this egla arufa, the details of the matters, as those seinen tachbulis welche gibun am. These are kinds of tricks or ways, cunning ways, welche geben a Möglichkeit, which will give an opportunity as the Reitzeach zone is galvern, so that we can discover the murderer. To use the language that the Rambam writes in Meir Nevuchim, the efsher al hareg. It's impossible in most cases. In Machakira, when we do the investigation, the Yitzias Hazikanim, the elders go out. Then those stand by. And taking of the cap. That people should not be talking about it. It will be an increase in the speech. People will be talking about it. Perhaps once it's publicized this matter, then it will be discovered who is the killer. And that is Messiah. And then he concludes. And the chozak zeh and to strengthen this idea, that the place where you chop off the calf, you should not work that place and not sow it forever. Because the one who owns the land, he should make every kind of possible trick, and investigate until we can discover the killer. Because he wants to make sure that the calf will not be chopped off the head, so that his land will not be prohibited forever. He will never be able to use it. So that's the Rambam stake. So in the Rambam, you actually see that the main thing involves is the killer, is the people to try to protect. We'll see in a minute. The Rambam says, "Benegates them prat for nachalesim," with regards to the detail why the nachalesim, as lefidaiti, in my opinion, yes, boitam ki inyan hakarbonis anasim bechutz. This is similar to the karbonis which are done on the outside, sort of a korban. Which are the other karbonis? Soira mishtaleach upora aduma. So we have the goat which is sent out from the two goats, so the Rebbe discussed earlier, and also the pora aduma, the red heifer, as discussed earlier. But that's also part of it. That's why the sages counted Egla Rufa as one of the chukim that have no reason, because like the other kabbanis, unlike the Rambam explains in Meir Nevuchim, or Rashi explains in Rashi, he says this is almost like a korban. It's a korban b'chutz. Rambam. This is also, we find similar to the Ramban in the Sefer Hayat Rambam, Sefer Lachs Meila, on the end of the laws of Meila, as the Alidrai, these all three, Egla Arufa, Upora Aduma, V'soira Mishtaleach, these three, werden dort gerechnet zusammen als Chukim, they're always counted there as Chukim, illogical mitzvahs, and they do it because the Eibishter says one of the Chukim. Masha'enken, if the droshe was Rashi bringt darop, as opposed to the expounding, the way Rashi explains it, Omer HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Tovei Eglo, let the calf come, Chulu Shaloyasa Pedus, V'te'orif, that it didn't have a chance to do Pedus and let it be chopped off L'chaper to a tom, Kumtuis L'choyre. So it turns out, it would seem as is nid b'suga chukim. It's not part of the statutes because there is a reason that we're explaining it. And now the Rebbe is going to explain that these three approaches between the Meir Nevuchim Ramban, the Ramban and the Rambam in the Yad, and Rashi are explaining, talking about three different ways to learn about the atonement of the Egla Rufa. Both, Yesh Loimar, as those are fanim, these are three ways women can learn them get the hakapora from Egla Rufa, how we can learn the definition of the atonement of the Segla Rufa. Is it mitzadem poyel? Is it because the one who did it, mitzadem peula, the act, the poyel is the one who did it. The peula is what was be done b'chlalusa in general, and mitzadem nifal, or what has been accomplished in Mekayim. The Rebbe will explain in its place. The Rebbe explain. The Fiyah Rambam Aleph, the Fiyah Rambam in Meir Nevuchim, according to the Rambam, the Meir Nevuchim, is the Kapora Mitzad HaPoyel. The atonement comes because of the ones who are doing this Egla Rufa. B'shaz di Ziknei Ha'ir HaKrevim El HaCholol. When the elders of the city, who are close to the dead, the dead person that was found, two and the Allah pulas, they do all these activities. And they're doing it in order to discover, to reveal who is the murderer. Is those gufa mechaper that atones for the elders? That atones for them. As nem arop von zeidem over, it takes down the sin. They're doing whatever they can to discover the killer. That takes away their sin. This is an addition the Rebbe adds in the bracket. The kapora bashtet nit nor in them. The atonement consists not just in this, v'zeitun ale mine peulis, that they do all kind of action as is all nisgalaver in the reitzeach, that the murder should be discovered by making this big tumult and the whole Egra, as the Meir Nevuchim writes, because this way they are publicizing with the greatest publicity as chavfetz as kenim v'anshe hadas, that what is the desire of the elders and the people of intelligent is gefinnen dem ritzeach, is to find that is what they really want. They want to find the murderer, to avenge from the murderer the avenge of the one who was killed. Und das gufa farhit. So that in itself, that publicity, this is what they want to do, this protects und wurzelt ois, and this uproots them inyan von Ritzicha, the idea of murder. Therefore, that atones. Base number 2. Leuten Ramban, according to the Rambam, we can say that this is also the view of the Rambam in the Sefer Hayad over there, quoted before. Is dos mitzad der peula? That's because of the act. This is just like the idea of karbonis. Was euch auf dem sagt der Rambam dort. The Rambam also says over there, all of the karbonis are part of the statues, as the peula from karbonis is mitzad der maisa hakrova, that the impact, the effect, and the atonement of the karbonis is because of the act that you are offering them. Al derech zeh is by Egla Arufa. When it comes to Egla Arufa, was kapora nemar bo kikochim, which also said over there kapora, just like it says by kochim, as the Gemara brings down in Zvachim. Thus haste, that means punkt vi by Allah karbonis is as gzeidas hamelach. Just like by all karbonis, it's a decree, Hashem decreed. As yet, their korban is mechapir oifan aveda or avedas museum, as each korban atones for a certain aveda or several certain avedas. Al derech zadeh zayin do peula hakarbonis. So similar, the act of the karbonis museums. So like by all the karbonis, what they atone for. So the peulas hakarbonis musuyamis shebuchutz. There's the impact of the karbonis, certain the soil lazozel, the agla rufa, and the poraduma, soil amshtaleach, poraduma, agla rufa. That's the decree of the king. As euch say, as euch die meiste soll mechaper sein, that act should atone as well. And that's the opinion of the Ramban and the Rambam in the Yad. So the Moira Nevuchim, it's what the elders are doing. That's the atonement. In the Ramban and the Rambam in the Yad, it's the act of the Korbanos. And number 3, the Das Rashi, according to Rashi's opinion, Tove Egla Bashnos Chulo, that this Egla year-old, this comes out as a third way. As the kapara is nit mitzad them poil or the pula b'chlal. It's not because of the one who's doing the kapara, the elders, or the act itself, b'chlal in general. The dugmas hakarbonis similar to the karbonis, nor mitzad them nifal, but because of what's being accomplished. Hanirtzach, the one who was murdered, and Egla Nerefes, and what has happened to this Egla Nerefes. This is what has been accomplished, not the act of the Tove Egla Bas Shnosa Shalosa Pedus. You have a calf, a year-old that has not had an opportunity to have Pedus children, but to other Mokim Shaina is Pedus. And it is also chopped off in a place that doesn't do fruit. Valdika Porre, because this atonement is not nor if meiser ritzicha from the ritzech. It's not just that the act atoning for the ritzech, nor b'miyuchad ev dem teichen hamiyuchad, but this is specifically for what happened over here. The specific content shebenirtzach v'nifal. That was the person that was murdered. We're taking into consideration what took place over here, and the atonement is similar, and it's the same way. To atone for killing this person who has not got the opportunity to make fruit, to have children. So it is a kapara through doing something which is similar to what has been done. And the Riber, that's what you're saying. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, this is a new way of atonement. Need the by Sha'ar a fane kapara de kochim, not unlike the other ways of kapara of kochim. Also not those who are done outside because this takes into consideration what has happened here. We're taking in the act, what happened, the nifa. So, Zayin, so this will sweeten and make it even more understood the difference, the way we translate Nachal Esau. According to the Rambam's reason, and the Moira Nevuchim, that this is to show how much effort the Ziknei Ha'ir, the Anshe Hadas, we understand was teaches el Nachal Eson sheshoyter b'chazoka. He teaches the forceful current of the river that flows with strength. Nit karka kosher shaloi nevad. It's not a hard land that has not been worked through the past. Nor as mikan ve'elich is do alav shaloi yavid, but rather we're talking about a prohibition from here on, can't work that place. Valoit zayin tam, according to the reason of the Rambam, poilun as the bal hasoda, since we're trying to impact and to convince that the master of the field, the owner of the field, Yasa Kol Tachbula, should do everything, every trick that he has, v'yakir, and he should investigate Achi Voda Horik until we can find the killer. Is a bezvolt gemeint karka, if it meant a property, hard property, darf das sein adrabe. So then, if it meant property, that wouldn't be an incentive. That wouldn't be an incentive to go ahead and look for it if it's a hard piece of not useful property that you can't sow. You need a good field which is fit to sowing, and very much so that he shouldn't want it to be condemned because the egla roof is there. Was dann wird es mehr onrieren den Balasode. That would touch the owner of the field more. Und wird sich mehr mishtadel sein zu gefinden dem Ritzach. He will make more effort to find the murderer. His land should not be prohibited forever. Therefore, learn the Rambam. That's what the Rambam learns. As Nachal Eison meant nit karka, doesn't mean property. Nor am Nachal shel Maim sheshoitu bechazoka. It's talking a river that is flowing with strength, a strong current, but he can't say a strong piece of land like Rashi says, because that wouldn't be an incentive. And according to the Rambam, the whole process of Meir Nebuchim is to be an incentive. He doesn't want his land to be forever not used. Similar is Latama Rambam B'Sifra Yad. The Rambam's reason in the Yad, in the Rambam, in Bald, since it's an atonement, which is defined in the regular category of karbonis, is mistaber. It's also logical as the ort from the Arifa that the place in where you do the chopping off of the egla daf nitzayin bedavka karka kosher shalim never. It shouldn't be a very strong piece of land that has not been worked through, nor fakert. That's a carbon should be bos men nivchara mokem meshubach. It should be a more choice place, a more praiseworthy way. So why would you be in a hard land? Doesn't really sit well. But Leut Rashi aber, according to Rashi, v'bal das dos is nishtane v'nischadish. Here is a change and there is a novelty here. Aber HaKadosh Baruch Hashem is saying, "Since nechadish geworden an nayer suk von kapora." We have a novel that became a novelty, a new category of atonement. Now, as we said before, is mistaber, so it's logical. As azoy v'di egla is as shaleos sopetis, just like the calf is one that has not had any fruit, no children. Undipula is arifa. And the act is shopping in Yonei Shlila negative. So the place needs to also be a negative place. Something that doesn't make fruit. Eson, which means kosher never hard that has not been worked. As neat nor mikanu lahaba. Not just from here and on. This needs to be a place. Doesn't do fruit nor be iker, but mainly behoiva b'shas ha'arifa at the time that he's chopping off muz zayin and eson kosher never. It needs to be a difficult that has not been worked. Eino that doesn't do fruit, according to Rashi, fits very well with the pirush, a hard land that has not been used, and a egla that has not done fruit, and in a negative, chopping off the head. This is the type of this kapora. Yes. A Torah nitzchis, Torah is eternal, is move on, it's understood as the hoyra from Parshas Egla Rufa, that the lesson from the portion of the Egla Rufa is do b'chol hazmanim v'b'chol hamakoymes. It's in all time and all places. So all yidden for all yidden. B'myuchad in zman hagolus, especially during the time of exile. Osota shayches zum inyan for shvichas domin. The time of exile has a connection to the idea, the concept of pouring of blood. But on the spiritual level, is man durch jeden chet, anytime we do any sin, whether it's action, speech, or thought, we cause the idea of shvichas dam, and the pouring of the blood, v'chayis odom the kedusha, the vitality of the Adam of Kedusha, Adam the Klippa, taking that blood from the Kedusha and putting it into the Adam, to the man of the Klippa. Das is a hero nifla. And here we have this wonderful lesson over here. Men ret wegen yemotzi cholul ba'adam. We're talking about you found a dead person on the ground. Neufel basoda. He felt he's falling. He died. He fell dead in the field. Was in them fall kementain. What does it mean he was in the field? One can argue. There's no thing death without a sin. He must have done something wrong. Why did he die? So certainly this comes from Hashem. That's why he died. Similar to the saying of our sage of blessed memory with regards to somebody who sinned accidentally of Posik, Hashem put it to your hand, which means that even though you made an accident, it's still your responsibility. Is there make ish, is there itseach? So the person who kills somebody is a murderer. And he deserves a great punishment. We don't know who's the one that killed him. So the one who died is deserving of it. And even if he, it comes, the Eibishter, the Medrash over there says that the Eibishter puts one on the top of the ladder, one on the bottom of the ladder. So the one who killed and nobody knows ends up going to exile. So, meaning that even though you did an accident, it doesn't help. You're still responsible. Is the person who killed somebody else, smite somebody, is a murderer, and he deserves a big punishment. Here we don't know who killed him. Especially as the Gemara and Rashi says, as the Egla Rufa could be Iker, that it comes mainly al harigosi shel zeh shelo yinichu lasis pedis, for killing this person who didn't have a chance to do fruit. Unarat nit gehat the magne umatzle from Torah mitzvahs. He did not have any protection and shade that Torah mitzvahs provides protection. Why did he die? Why was he smitten? So he didn't have the protection because he didn't do Torah mitzvahs. So this person who's dead over there is not a very nice or a very special person. So is the so the one who was damaged, he had already the decree from Hashem. So one can think as men hot to them kin shaykhs nit. So we have no connection. What are we going to do? You know, the person is already destined, determined to be the death penalty by Hashem. So we have no connection to that. No, we don't need to take care of it, get involved. So this is in the Gashmi, is seeing a dead person who probably deserved it. And maybe we don't have to get involved. Similarly, in a spiritual level, when you find a yid in a very degrading, deteriorated situation, Neufel, he's falling and where it's in the field. The Basoda is a hint for Soda, which is Esav's place. A man of the field. Heipach from the Stadt. This is opposite of a city, Mokum Yishuv, a place settled with people. B'shah Chanti. That's the Eberster is in the city. From the Odom El Yishalakisei, where the supreme man who's on the throne, he's in the field. There's no man there. The Eberster is not there. He's not in an area, an ortus von Torah mitzvahs. This is not an area surrounding the Torah mitzvahs. So you can make an accounting to calculation. Whose fault is it that this Jew finds himself in such a condition? He should not be in the field. Not in a mokum it should be in a settled, in a city place. In a city, in a surrounding, from Torah where there's Torah and fear of heaven. And therefore, he is by Soda and Neifel by Soda. Darfen die was gefunden sind Beir, the people who find themselves in the city, in the place of Torah Yerushalayim, in Asviva for Yidden Shemrei Torah mitzvahs, in a area where the Yidden keep Torah mitzvahs. Zikenim or Bezdin, you got elders, you got Bezdin. Nit vernehmen sich mit him. We don't have to occupy ourselves with this person. Like them is the hero from Parshas Eglarufa. So now we have the lesson from the portion of Eglarufa. Those hot ashayches, this has a connection nit nor to the Toshve Ha'ira Kreva Lacholom, not only to the inhabitants of the city that are close to the one who was found dead, nor oich, not just the settled people, but also to the Beis Din, nor oich to the Zikne Ha'ira, but also to the elders of that city. Zum Beis Din von der Stadt, from the Beis Din of that city. It also touches up to the great Bezdin, the Yotzus Kenecho. Who is this Kenecho? Those are the special elders, Elu Sanhedrin Gdoilo. This is the great Sanhedrin. They as well come out over there. Und die Zikne Bezdin from them here. And the elders of Bezdin of this city, darf machen sicher, they need to assure, guarantee, to the extent that they have to announce it. As we did not pour this blood. Rashi teaches, Rashi translated. It's not that we haven't seen him and let him go without feeding him and without escorting him. As man hat dem Eden gegeben, say the Laderech, that this Yid was given food for the road, the Mosin from Torah, the food of Torah. By Torah is my inside, so that is the feeding. Same thing, garments of mitzvahs, from Kelt, which protect from the cold, and from Keshes Cherev, and from the lechem ulevush, and the heat, lechem ulevush, bread and a garment, which will escort him into the field of Esau, where he needs this protection. Keshes is the bow, the arrow, and the cherev is the sword to fight against the kashtiu becharbi. That's the necessary tools to be able to fight back on all the other. We have to give them along, and that will escort him in the Esau, in the field of Esau, the darkness of the exile. In them where is gegangen, in the situation, the condition of the field in which he voluntarily went there. Nochmar sagt man, we say even more. Ados is verbunden euch mit die Sanhedrin hagdoilo, Sanhedrin gedoilo sheblish shagozis. This is also tied to the great court, to the Supreme Court, which sits in the room of the Gozis by the Beis Hamikdash. L'cheira would seem. What is their connection to this murdered, to this person murdered? Was not gefunden that they found? Nicht besmiches to Yerushalayim, it's not close to Yerushalayim. Nor it's an ander weiter Stadt, this is a different faraway city. Ergens wo in Eretz Yisrael, somewhere else in Eretz Yisrael. Steht aber in Tonet Velio, it says in Tonet Velio, Rabbi, Hoyo lahem l'Sanhedrin gedoyla, that this great Sanhedrin, Supreme Court, Sheniach Moshe Yeshua Chulu, Moshe Yeshua left, Liksher Chavorim Shel Barzel b'Mosneim, they should tie metal ropes on their hips, Ulagbia Bigdeim Lamailo Markaveseim, and to raise their clothing above their knees, meaning so they can walk far. V'yachzuru b'chol hayoretz Yisrael, they need to walk around in all cities of the Yidden. Yom echad lelochish, one day to Lochish, Chulu, etc. V'chein b'chol mekoymes Yisrael, and likewise in all areas of the Yidden, v'yilamdus Yisrael Chulu, and they should teach the Yidden, Kedei sheyizgadel v'yizkadesh Moshe HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Olomis, so that the name of Hashem will be increased and sanctified in the world's Chulu. Ulahoyir, and the Rebbe said, just to point out, as in Tonut Velio Rabbo, dos gesagt, this is said b'negeya, the Shivim Elev, about the 70,000 shenergu begivas Binyamin that were killed in the hill of Binyamin after the story of the Pelegish Begiva, as Loy Horagoisam Ela Sanhedrin Gedoyluchu, who's the one that killed the 70,000? That was the great Sanhedrin. Ben Zei Voltu Narois Bayore Yisrael V'chulu. We consider it as the Sanhedrin Gedoyla, because had they gone out in the cities of Israel, both mit Gekumen to Maise Pelegish Begiva, then the story with the Pelegish Begiva, which this people of Binyamin did and tortured that woman, that would not have taken place, and it's therefore their responsibility. Kachas kama v'kama. So how much more so? So this is actually, they went and they killed all these people, and still we are tying it to the Sanhedrin. We're saying that it's there. They should be going out and making sure it doesn't happen. Achas kama v'kama v'nesenetzcha v'gidin was gefinnes of Basode. When we're talking about Yidden that find themselves in the field, Amokim on Torah on mitzvahs, a place without Torah and mitzvahs. Ados is achiv v'achrayis. It's an obligation and a responsibility of a slikt of based in Israel. This is upon the court, the Jewish court. This is the hira. This is the lesson. Vayedin Eden b'yemenu edu, for every Jew in our days. Ubefrat in the Zman, especially in the time from Chodesh Elul, month of Elul, as Madar Farizkim, we need to go out the Mokkah Meshve B'nei Yisrael in places where Yidden are settled. Oichin an Ort, also in an area was is nit kein Sviva from Torah Mitzvahs, which is not an area of Torah Mitzvahs Soda. When Arois helping Yidden, and we're supposed to help every Jew, and to encourage him, arouse him, wake him up. As in the Zman from Elul, in the time of Elul, Gefinzach der Melech Malcham Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The king that kings, Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is a Basoda, he's in the field. When his Merkabel Yadamenim, he accepts everyone. In Vos Varamayim L'Matzav Yizol Zayin, whatever his condition, situation he may be, he receives everyone B'Sefer Ponim Yofis, with a good smiling face, shows a happy smiling face to everyone. And those kufa help to raise them in. This alone helps the Yidden arise to gain from the Maim and the Matzah from Sodom to go out of the situation and the condition from the field in Gefinzach in which he finds himself. And at that point, he's lechtoi, as the continuation, the Alter Rebbe says in the Kutei Torah, as Belechtei HaMelech Ha'ira, when the king goes to the city, Harem Hilchim Acharov, they follow him, they go after him. In the Mizman from Yom Neroyim, in the time of the days of awe, when we fulfill Hashem's request, Shetamlichuni Aleichem, make me king over you. Bis Sudam Kapel Amcha Yisrael, to you come to atone for you people Yidden. B'Yom Kippur Mayom Kippur. when es wird aufgetan, in which it's accomplished the kapora, uslicha, mechila, the atonement, the forgiving, and the sorry that we all receive. Ask for jeden in for ganzen Klal Yisrael, for all of the Jewish community. Und so lachte ich Barecha, I've forgiven as you have said. Jeder einer und eine, each and every one, that Nichtav and Echtav Altar is written and sealed, is immediately the Sifron Shel Tzadikim Gemurim in the book of the complete righteous. This is Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Shoftim Teitze B'Tovei in Tovshin Mem Aleph.